Okay, now it's time for the flams. A very interesting name. What is a fa-lam? Really, it's one note hitting fa-lam before the last one. So when we play a flam, the idea here is to try to thicken the note. So if I'm playing some single strokes and I add a little grace note, one right before that, it's almost like two people clapping slightly out of time, which makes it sound like there's more people. So what that does is it gives it a little bit thicker sounding quality to the note. Now the key to making sure that you can always have one stick hitting before the other is really basic. Just have the one that's going to hit first close and the one that's going to hit second farther away. So if you drop them by opening up my hands, you can see gravity is going to get the one closest going to hit there first. This is very important. Now sometimes students will understand how to set up for a flam. The first note you hit is the small little note when you see it written on a poster. It's called the grace note. The large note is often referred to as the primary stroke. So when we decide what flam we're playing, the primary stroke was already there. So if we're playing a left-hand stroke, that's the primary stroke, and then we add a grace note to it, that becomes a left-hand flam. That's how you can distinguish between a right and left-hand flam. It's sometimes confusing to remember, is it heads or tails, first or second? But the primary stroke is the big stroke, and you're adding like a little bit of ornamentation to it with that grace note to give that big note a slightly thicker effect. So when you're practicing these flams, make sure that when you set up in this position, you don't reshift and then have your what's called a flat flam or unison stroke, where the tips of the sticks are hitting at the same time. On a pad, it's not a big deal, but on a snare drum, where there's a drum head, it has a very funny feeling, and the sound is weird. If you've ever jumped on a trampoline and two people bounce at the same spot simultaneously, it's like it cancels out the bounce. So really, on a pad you can't tell, but you can hear it, whether it's snare or pad, and your ears are always your guide to your technique ultimately. So I'm playing, for me, left-hand flams. The image may be reversed, and I feel that the best way to practice flams is to start with your strong flam. Now for me, left hands are easier because I'm starting with the right, and I'm a right-handed drummer. So I would practice these over and over, just trying to be able to play them at a little rate of speed increase, but not change the quality of the flam. Mostly wristing, a little finger at the top. I've spent some time doing fingers. I'm still working on that. Then I practice the opposite. Same thing. Trying to make the flams always the same. Now, when we play them rudimentally, we're supposed to work on right and left hand simultaneously so we can balance our hands. So we're going to begin with one flam. Now, the key to successful alternating flams, or what some people call hand-to-hand flams, is to make sure that when you finish with one flam, that you're actually poised for the next flam. So you want to be ending in the setup position for the next flam, as opposed to flam, then set, flam, then reposition. So that takes way too much time. So it's really important to kind of snap them up. You don't have to be like super tight about it, but you want to be quick about it. And then as you increase the rate of speed, the hard part is going to be able to go back and forth, keeping this nice smooth motion. Now I'm bouncing them. So there they are. They're becoming bounce flams. And as I slow them back down again, I'm back into more wristing. Now there's a peculiar technique I've developed to be able to play very quickly with flams, because when we really break it down, every flam I'm playing a right hand, and every flam I'm playing a left hand. I'm just alternating which one's first. So in a sense, I'm actually playing singles. Now if I played like this, they'd be hard, so I have to come up with a system of being able to really bounce the stick. And this is something that you're just really going to have to experiment with. I'm using kind of a double stroke technique, but I've discovered that if I whip my hand up really quickly, I can produce the next double to where it sounds like I'm just playing single strokes back and forth, but it's really with one hand. Missed one in there. So I put them together. So now in a flam combination, that's how you can get some super fast flams. To me, my goal is always to find a way to get the sticks to do half the load. So whatever rudiment I'm working on, I break things down so I can figure out how to get the sticks to bounce. Because I know how to bounce sticks, but I just have to coordinate that bounce stroke, what I call bounce coordination, within every rudiment. This is a funnier technique. It's something that you're just going to have to experiment with. But it is very much like a double stroke, but instead of stopping and pausing, I really bring my hand up so the next double stroke can happen right after the first, so it keeps a continuous single stroke combination. So if you keep messing with that, you'll figure out how to really finesse it to get it to go very quickly. And that's the technique I use. So I'm starting out wristing. As I get faster, I open up my hands, wrist bounce, and as it's really fast, I'm switching to all-out bounce. And then I reverse all that as I come back to the beginning. Okay? So you can widen the flam, make it really wide, but it's important, I think, to make sure it's distinguishably flam. You can really hear the flam. It's not a big old bunch of, well, is that a flam? That's a flam. There we go. So good luck on your flams. Keep working them. They'll get better, and they just really sound fat. So go for it. See you next time. We're going to finish out with drags. See you then.